Good morning, students. I hope so everyone are good. So this is lecture 4 from chapter number 3, Nationalism in India, class 10th, subject history. So till now we have discussed about what are the different challenges and struggles did Indian people saw in the First World War. Then we have talked about the idea of satyagraha, the non-cooperation movement, how did civil disobedience movement started. Now in this particular lecture we are going to continue and we will discuss about the participants who saw the civil disobedience movement. So who were the participants who saw this particular movement, we will discuss about that. Then we will discuss about some important dates. So there are a number of series on how the particular thing happened on which dates. So we will discuss about some major important dates. Then the limits of the civil disobedience movement. What were the limitations of this particular movement? We'll discuss that, and source D, which is quite important. We'll discuss that too in this particular lecture, and I will give you the homework solution from the previous lecture and the homework that I'm going to assign you in this particular lecture. So let's get started with the lecture now. So the first topic that we're going to take is how participants saw the movement. So we'll discuss about all the different social groups that participated in the civil disobedience movement and why did they join this particular movement, what were their ideals, and what did Swaraj mean to them. So we'll discuss that in this topic. So in the countryside, rich peasant communities like the Patidars of Gujarat and the Jats of Uttar Pradesh were active in this particular movement, and being producers of commercial crops, they were very hard hit by the Great Depression and falling prices at that time. So the major fall that happened, the Indian people saw, both basically the producers of these commercial crops, they were hard hit by the Great Depression and falling prices of their crops, and majorly hit by the major towns and cities of Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh. So as their cash income disappeared, they found it impossible to pay the government's revenue demand. So they were not able to pay the government's revenue demand at that point of time, and the refusal of the government to reduce the revenue demand led to widespread resentment. So the government was also not वो भी पीछे नहीं हट रहे थे, and the Indians also were not able to pay the revenue of this government time. So that bring them to this widespread resentment. So these rich peasants become enthusiastic supporters of the civil disobedience movement, organizing their communities and at times forcing recurrent members to participate in the boycott program. So that was one of the biggest reasons that how these rich peasants were become the supporter of the civil disobedience movement, because they were facing the major trade depression and the price were falling for their commercial crops, and they were not able to repay the revenue demand of the government. So they thought of this particular movement to join it, and they were in a very big support for the civil disobedience movement. They were organized many communities of that, and at times they were forcing recurrent members to participate in this boycott programs. But for them, the fight for Swaraj was a struggle against this high revenue. But for them, the meaning for Swaraj was quite different for what Gandhiji has thought about it. For them, the struggle was only against its high revenues. But they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 without the revenue rates being revised. So just because it was only in their case, they wanted Swaraj so that the high revenue they were giving, they should be abolished. But when it is being called off at 1931, they were highly disappointed because still they have to pay the same revenue rate. So when the movement was restarted in 1932, many of them refused to participate. So just because of that disappointment कि उनके लिए स्वराज का जो meaning था, that was for their own benefits. So they were highly disappointed, and when it was restarted in 1932, they refused to participate, and they were not even enthusiastic to be a part of it. So the poorest peasantry were not just interested in the lowering of the revenue demand. Many of them were small tenants cultivating land, and they had rented from landlords. So basically all the poor peasants who were there, who were not interested in lowering the revenue, demands. They were living in some particularly small regions, cultivating land area which was also lended by the landlords. So as the depression continued and cash income dwindled, the small tenants found it difficult to pay their rent, and they want the unpaid rent to the landlord to be rented. They joined a variety of radical movements, often led by socialists and communists. So as you can see now, also there is a complete depression going on, and the people who are living on the rent zone, like all जो भी villagers वगैरह थे वो rent पे जो भी रहते थे, they didn't have any money to repay them. Same condition was there at that time when the small tenants found it difficult to pay their rent, and they want the unpaid rent कि वो हटा दे landlord, because they were in a very huge depression. They don't have any sort of money to pay back to them, and they joined these particular variety of radical movements. So who were led by the socialists and communists, so that they don't have to pay that particular rent to their landlords. So apprehensive of raising issues that might upset the rich peasants and landlords, the Congress was unwilling to support no rent campaigns in most places. So basically these apprehensive of raising issues that might upset the rich peasants and the landlords, so the Congress was not in the favor of these no rent campaigns in most of the places, and so the relationship between the poor peasants and the Congress remained uncertain. So here, just because they want the rich peasants and landlords in favor of them, they were not supporting these no rent campaigns, and they were not in support of these socialists and communists who were supporting this thing. So the relationship between these poor peasants and the Congress remained very uncertain at that time. Now, what was the impact of business class here? So how business class participated in this, and what was the major impact here? So as you all know, that during the First World War, Indian merchants and the industries had made huge profits and become powerful. You can see that in chapter number 5. We will discuss that. We are not doing chapter 4, so we will discuss in this particular thing only in chapter number 5. Keep on expanding their business, and they now reacted against colonial policies. Wait. So they was keen on expanding their businesses, and they now reacted against these colonial policies that restricted business activities. So they wanted protection against imports of foreign goods and a rupee sterling foreign exchange ratio that would discourage all the imports here. So in short, I just want to explain you this. Although there were different groups of participants, they were very different demands too, but the business class, what was the impact of business class here was they were hardly expanding. They want to expand their business, and now they faced a problem. It was colonial restriction on the business activities, and they are interested in gaining protection against the competition which will be bring by the import of these foreign goods. To organize business interests, they formed Federation of this Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, led by the Thakur Das and the G.D. Birla, and all the industries. There were many did not took part in this movement except the industries in Nagpur. They took part in the movement to fight against all the low wages and the poor working conditions. So basically, they organized this. Why the business class was included in this, to organize business interests, because वो भी अपने benefit के लिए they were part of this particular movement because they were facing, they actually wanted protection against this import duties of foreign goods, and they actually want certain benefit out of it. So all these rupee sterling foreign exchange ratio that would discourage their imports. So to support that, they were interested in this civil disobedience movement. So to organize business interests, they formed the Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920 and the Federal of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries in 1927, led by prominent industries like Purushottam Das, Thakur Das and G.D. Birla. So these were the major big industries in support of इनकी हेल्प लेके दे पर्टिकुलरली attacked this colonial control over the Indian economy and supported the civil disobedience. So their major role here was to earn अपने खुद के बिजनेसेस के लिए, क्योंकि उनको इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटीज ना देनी पड़े, उनको अपने जो भी वो इम्पोर्ट वगैरह करते हैं उससे प्रॉफिट मिल सके. सो दे वर अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. So the movement, when it was first launched, they gave financial assistance and refused to buy or sell imported goods. So here, the first thing they did is they boycotted all the imported goods here, and they did not want to finance any thing which are coming from other part of the country. So they gave all the financial assistance and refused to buy all the imported goods. Most businessmen came to see Swaraj at a time when colonial restrictions on business would no longer exist and trade and industry would flourish without constraints. So, but after the failure of this round table conference that happened, business groups were no longer uniformly enthusiastic. So, businessmen भी एक हद तक ही इंटरेस्टेड तब तक ही थे जब तक सारी चीजें उनके फेवर में थी. दे वर नॉट, उनको इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटीज ही देनी पड़ी थी. ट्रेडिंग और इंडस्ट्री में दे वर गोइंग वेरी वेल विदाउट एनी restrictions and anything, and they were getting the major profits out of it. But when the failure of round table conference happened, all the business groups were no longer interested in this particular civil disobedience movement again, and they were apprehensive of the spread of these militant activities and worried about prolonged disruption of business as well as of the growing influence of socialism amongst the young members of the Congress. So here they thought that if this particular thing will be spread all together, so अगर ये सारी militant activities ही चलती रहेंगी तो उनका कोई profit नहीं होने वाला, and they are going to face a lot of loss. So they actually don't want that this growing influence of socialism amongst the young members to happen, because they want to flourish their own businesses out of it. So the industrial working classes did not participate in this civil disobedience movement in large numbers except in the Nagpur region. So all the industrial working classes at that time were not interested in this particular movement in large numbers, but except in Nagpur region, they were participated as the industries came together to the Congress. Workers stayed aloof, but in spite of that, some workers did participate in the civil disobedience movement, selectively adapting to some of the ideas of the Gandhiji program, like boycotting of the foreign goods as part of their own movement against low wages and poor working conditions. There were strikes by railway workers in 1930 and dock workers in 1932. So there were not a lot of people who are interested in the second civil disobedience because of these particular reasons that I told you. For the business classes, industries, some were there selectively. कुछ भी लोग थे जिन्होंने support फिर भी किया था, and they adapted all the ideas of the Gandhiji program, like boycotting all the foreign goods as part of their own movements against low wages and poor working conditions. There were strikes by railway workers in 1930 and dock workers in 1932. So in 1930, thousands of workers in Chota Nagpur tin mines wore Gandhi caps and participated in the protest rallies and boycott campaigns, but the Congress were reluctant to include workers' demands as part of its program of struggle. So basically in 1930, there were a lot of thousands of workers came together in Nagpur, and they wore the Gandhi caps and participated in protest rallies and boycotted the campaigns that were held by these Congress members, and but the Congress were reluctant to include all the workers. They want all the workers' demand as part of their program of struggle. So पहले they were not taking all the जो भी workers वगैरह थे, they were not interested in them to be participate of this particular movement, क्योंकि अब उनके पास members कम थे. So the Congress thought that कि now we can include all the workers, and जो भी उनकी demand होगी, we can include that in the program of our struggle. So it kept that this would alienate industries and divide the anti-imperial forces. Another important feature of the civil disobedience movement was the large-scale participation of women. So here the main focus that happened in the second civil disobedience movement was there was a large scale of participation of women now. पहले इतना नहीं था, but now when this thing happened, there were a large scale of participation of women that happened, and that was a major change that came, and they have seen it. So during this Gandhiji salt march, thousands of women also came out of their homes to listen to him. They participated in protest marches, manufactured salt and picketed the foreign clothes and liquor shops. Many went to jail, and in urban areas these women were from high caste families, and in rural areas they came from rich peasant households. So who these women were? So basically, when Gandhiji launched his salt march, there were a lot of women volunteers who came together, and they came out of their home to listen to him, and they actually participated in the protest marches, and they manufactured salt as well. They have abandoned all the foreign clothes and all the liquor shops. Many went to jail as well, and in urban areas these women went are basically from the high class families. They were these women from high class families, and in rural areas they were from the rich peasant households. Why this reason was there कि actually in the urban areas जो भी high class family से belong करते थे, उनको ट्रीट ही ऐसे किया जाता था कि दे हैव दैट प्रोटेस्टेंट थिंग. वो उनकी जो थिंकिंग थी, दे वर सो मैटर, उनको रिस्ट्रिक्शन थे उनके पास. अब वुमेन्स के पास जिनके पास टाइम रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इतने नहीं थे, दे वर द वन हु विलिंगली पार्टिसिपेटेड. Others would also participate, but because of their family and their caste, religion thing happened. As you all know, till now it also happened in many of the villages. Women don't open up. So that was the reason the other class of the women were not able to participate in these movements. So moved by this Gandhiji's call, they began to see service to the nation as a sacred duty of women. Yet this increased public role did not necessarily mean any radical change in the way the position of women was visualized. So moving to the Gandhiji call, they begin to see all the services that the nation has a sacred duty of women here. So yet the increased public role did not necessarily mean that any radical change in the way of position of women there was visualized. So till now also, women are treated very badly in many of the village areas, in many of the rural areas, and in urban areas. If you have seen in the middle class families also, the women have been treated really ill. It is still there, and at that time it was अगर वो participate भी कर रही थी या नहीं कर रही थी, the way the society sees the women and the position of women in the society was still remain the same. It was not changed, and the visualize was still the same. कि women की क्या जगह थी उस time पे. They thought about this particular thing was there in their mind. Now we'll talk about the major important dates, and you must note out each and every date here because they are in a sequence. तो आपको कुछ याद करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी कि कौन सी डेट किस पे. तो you just write it down in a sequence from 1918 to 19. There was a distress UP pieces organized by the Ramchandra. Then April 1919 में गांधी जी हड़ताल against this Rowlatt Act in the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Then फिर उसके बाद 21 में जनवरी 1921 में the non-cooperation and खिलाफत movement launched. Then February 1922 Chauri Chaura Gandhi withdraws the non-cooperation movement. So whatever happened in the Chauri Chaura district with that particular movement only, Gandhiji withdraws the non-cooperation movement at that time. Then on May 1924, Alluri Sitarama Raju arrested, ending a 2-year armed tribal struggle. Then in the summer 1929, Lahore Congress adopted the demand for Purna Swaraj. Then in 1920, Ambedkar established Depressed Classes Association. Then in March 1930, Gandhiji began with this civil disobedience movement by breaking the salt law at Dandi. In March 1931, Gandhiji ended civil disobedience movement because it turned out to be again violent. So in the summer 1931, the second roundtable conference had, where the negotiation was being done in London by and they took Gandhiji there, but it was not a successful one. And when Gandhiji returned back, he saw that many of the politicians were arrested, women were treated very illy, and there were a lot of things that was happening. So for that thing, on 1932, civil disobedience movements relaunched. So what were the limitations of all these civil disobedience? Now here it is given in brief. I will let you know in short also how you can write this answer about the limits of the civil disobedience. So firstly we will discuss this particular thing, what were the limits of the civil disobedience particularly in brief. So not all social groups were moved by the abstract concept of Swaraj. One such group was the nation's untouchables, who from around the 1930s had begun to call themselves Dalit or obsessed. So जितने भी social groups थे who moved with this civil disobedience movement, सारे एक साथ नहीं चाहते थे स्वराज, क्योंकि उनमें से कुछ ऐसे सोशल ग्रुप्स थे जिनको नेशन वाइड हम अनटचेबल्स कहते थे, एज वी ऑल नो, और आज भी उनको वो पोजीशन नहीं दी गई है. बेसिकली they were recognized at particularly in 1930s, and they have begun to call themselves Dalit or oppressors. So basically they call them कि वो नीच क्लास के हैं. They were not उनको जिनको रिस्पेक्ट नहीं मिलती है सोसाइटी में, they call themselves Dalit and oppressor. For long time the Congress had ignored the Dalits. So just because जब उनके राइट्स के बारे में बात आती थी, उनको कोई भी प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिलती थी, उनके लिए कोई लॉस नहीं बने, उनको कुछ भी बेनिफिट नहीं मिला किसी भी चीज से. तो दे वर एक्चुअली अगेंस्ट ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स. And for long time Congress also ignored the Dalits for fear of offending the Sanatans and the conservative high class Hindus. So कांग्रेस भी थोड़ी मैनिपुलेटिव थी उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे, क्योंकि वो अपने अंडर में सिर्फ हाई क्लास पीसेंट्स और जो हाई क्लास सोसाइटी से बिलोंग करते, हाई क्लास हिंदूज और दी ब्राह्मण्स एंड ऑल दैट पीपल, ही वांटेड them to be a part of his in their team in this particular movement. So they, for that they were ignoring all the Dalits. But Mahatma Gandhi declared that Swaraj would not come for 100 years if untouchability was not eliminated. But here Mahatma Gandhi came for the untouchables, for all the Dalit people out there, that he declared that अगर स्वराज हमें चाहिए तो उसके लिए सारे लोगों का एक साथ होना जरूरी है. And if this is happening, so Swaraj would not be possible for 100 years if untouchability was not eliminated from our country. So he called the untouchables Harijan, or the children of God. So basically he recognized and he has given a beautiful name for these Dalits and untouchable peoples as Harijan, or you can say that children of God, and organized satyagrah to secure them entry into temples and access to public wells, tanks, roads and schools. So basically organize this satyagrah movement for them also, so that they can enter into these temples, they have the access of public wells, tanks, roads and schools. So they begin organizing themselves, demanding reserved seats in education institution and a separate electorate that would choose Dalit members for legislative councils. So just because Mahatma Gandhi initiated them this particular movement, they began organizing themselves and demanding reserve seat in the education system. As you know, all know about OBC, SC and ST. So now in education system they have reserve seat around them and a separate electorate that they want to choose Dalit members in the legislative council. So they want particularly 2 or 3 members should be a part of this legislative councils, and political empowerment should be given to them. They believe that that would resolve many of the problems in their social disabilities. तो उनको जो सोशली इतना हरास किया जाता है, उनको इतना बुली किया जाता है, with this it may resolve many of their problems. So the Dalit participation in this civil disobedience movement was therefore limited, and particularly in the Maharashtra and Nagpur region where their organization was quite strong. So Dalit participation was quite limited in this civil disobedience movement, but particularly just because it was initiated majorly in the towns and cities. So Maharashtra and Nagpur region were major, they have set up major organizations of Dalit members there, and they were quite strong. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who organized Dalits into these depressed classes association in 1930, clashed with the Mahatma Gandhi at the second roundtable conference by demanding separate electorate for the Dalits. So Here, B.R. Ambedkar stood up also for the Dalit here when and he was a part of this depressed class association that he have opened in 1930. So he had a clash with Mahatma Gandhi at the second round table conference there, and they demanded for a separate electorate for the Dalits in their country. So when the British government conceded Ambedkar's demand, Gandhiji began a fast unto death. He believed that separate electorate for Dalits would slow down the process of their integration into society. So Ambedkar was initially वो फोकस कर रहे थे कि ताकि दलित को उनके राइट मिल सके, बट गांधी जी थॉट दैट इट इज अ काइंड ऑफ अ पेस जिसको वो जो पेस चल रहा है उसको वो रोक देगा. तो ही बिलीव दैट अगर हम अभी से ये सेपरेट इलेक्टोरेट दलित के लिए मांगेंगे तो इट्स गोइंग टू स्लो डाउन द प्रोसेस ऑफ देयर इंटीग्रेशन इनटू द सोसाइटी. एंड अम्बेडकर अल्टीमेटली एक्सेप्टेड गांधीजी's position and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1932. So he gave the depressed classes later to be known as the scheduled caste. So at that time it was called off movement, and they started with the Pune Pact of September 92 Act. He gave them the depressed class. Now it is known as the scheduled caste, and the reserve seat in provincial and central legislative council were given, but they were to be voted in by the general electorate. तो बेसिकली अगर उनको वोट देने भी हैं, अगर वो उनको ये राइट्स मिल भी रहे हैं तो उनको जनरल कैटेगरी में देने पड़ेंगे. They have given certain reserve seats there in the central legislative council, but they were to be voted by in the general electorate only. So the Dalit movement, however, continued to be oppressive of the Congress led by the national movement. So you have all seen this. अभी भी बहुत सारे क्लैशेस होते हैं, बहुत सारे डिमांड कि उनको अपने राइट्स चाहिए. एससी वालों को अलग अलग रिलीजन आते हैं अपने राइट्स मांगने के लिए, दैट दे वांट टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ इट, दे वांट स्पेशल अटेंशन, दे वांट these reserve seats around them. So it is happening till now. That movement was continued till now, and it is still there in some part of the areas. So when this civil disobedience movement started, there was thus an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between the communities aligned from the Congress, and large sections of Muslims could not respond to the call of a united struggle. So when again this civil disobedience movement started, so there was an atmosphere of distrusting each other's community. So they were not able to trust each other anymore, and there was an alignment with the Congress. So there was a large section of Muslims who could not respond to this altogether movement. So they were not helping with this united struggle altogether. So there were many Muslim leaders and intellectuals expressed their concern about the status of Muslims as a minority within India, and they feared that the culture and identity of minorities would be submerged under the domination of a Hindu majority. So here many of the Muslim leaders and intellectuals thought that the status of Muslim is being categorized in a very minor category in India. उनको वो पूरा प्रॉपर बैलेंस स्टेटस नहीं मिला था as Hindus. So they fear that अगर यही चलता रहा तो the culture and identity of this minority system is having in India, they will be submerged into the domination of the Hindu majority. So वो दबके रह जाएंगे हिंदू कम्युनिटी के अंदर, उनको कभी उनकी पर्टिकुलर राइट्स मिल ही नहीं पाएंगे कभी भी. So they thought about this. So I'm just telling you in short what were the limitations of this. So first of all, there was a limited participation of Dalits. So Dalits participation in the civil disobedience movements was very limited, particularly in Maharashtra and Nagpur region, where their organization was quite strong. Then there was no participation of Muslims here. So some of the Muslim political organizations in India were also lukewarm in their response to the civil disobedience movement. And after non-cooperation Khilafat movement, Muslim felt alienated from the Congress. So उनको थोड़े दूर रहने लग गए थे with the Congress, just because of this non-cooperation Khilafat movement happened with the Muslim. So the third one was the dominant role of Sanatans and Hindu Mahasabha. So the role of Sanatanis and Hindu Mahasabha were very dominant. Due to the fear of Sanatanis and the conservative high-class Hindu, Congress ignored the Dalits here, and Congress were very close to Hindu Mahasabha. Hindu Mahasabha strongly obsessed the affairs of compromise between the Congress and the Muslim League here. Then there was a clash between the B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi. So in 1930, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar clashed with Mahatma Gandhi at the second round table conference by demanding separate electorate for the Dalits. So here you know about this controversy that happened between B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi. The fifth one was participants have different aspirations. So participants had their own aspirations. There was a contrast between the demands of industries and working class, and the contrast was also there in the demand of rich peasants and poor peasants. That was united struggle was not there at all. So they were struggling for their own demands. They were not all together demanding for one whole independence there. So they were inspired by their own demands. They want benefit for their own self. They were not thinking for the entire country there. Now we'll talk about source D. So we are not going in detail right now. We'll discuss this in the text when we discuss about the text thing. So I'm just reading it out. I'm just explaining you a little bit of it. What does it say? So in 1930, Sir Muhammad Iqbal, as president of the Muslim League, reiterated the importance of separate electorate for the Muslims as an important safeguard for their minority political interests. So in 1930, there was one member who was Sir Muhammad Iqbal. He was the president of the Muslim League, and he said that he actually rented the importance of separate electorate for the Muslim members. So the Muslim community, he wanted कि उनके लिए separate electorates हो, and to safeguard the interest of all the minority political interests here. So his statement is supposed to have provided by the intellectual justification for the Pakistan demand that came up to be subsequent years. So his statement was supposed to be for the Pakistani who actually there was a demand for was happening from a very quiet years, and this is what he said. So I have no hesitation in declaring that if the principle that the Indian Muslim is entitled to full and free development on the lines of his own culture and tradition in his own Indian homelands is recognized as the basis of a permanent communal settlement, he will be ready to stake his all for the freedom of India. So he said that I don't hesitate in declaring that अगर Hindu Muslim साथ में आ रहे हैं and they are fighting it for the full and free development of his culture also, his tradition also, and they are giving them all the importance and being a part of India, being a part of this own Indian homeland. He recognized that the basic permanent communal settlement should be there in the favor of the Muslim community as well. So if it is there, he will be ready to seek all his freedom, all his stakes for all the freedom of India here. So the principle that each group is entitled to free development on its own lines is not inspired by any feeling of narrow communalism. So a community which is inspired by feeling of ill will towards other communities is low and ignoble. I entertain the highest respect for the custom laws, religions and social institutions of other communities. Now it is my duty according to the teachings of the Quran even to defend their places of worship if need be. Yet I love the communal group which is the source of life and behavior and which has formed me what I am by giving me its religion, its literature, its thought, its culture, and hereby its whole past as a living operative factor in my present consciousness. So here he declared that he had no, if we are talking about the free development in their own lines, मतलब हर एक कम्युनिटी को उनकी खुद के राइट्स मिलेंगे, उनको फ्री डेवलपमेंट उनको मिलेगा. सो इफ इट इज गोइंग टू इंस्पायर बाय दैट थिंग, सो उसको कोई इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा कि मतलब ये उनसे क्या चीज़ें ले रहे हैं. But if they are not going to entertain them, if they are not going to give them the full freedom, they are going to not balancing out in all the communities there. So he will be it's his duty according to the teaching of his Quran that he have taught, read, even to defeat their places of worship in need by. Yet he loved this all the communal group, which is the source of life and behavior, which has formed what I am giving by its religion, its literature and everything. But he want to stand by his community in the present consequences. So, जो भी present consequences, it should be in the balanced way. He actually wanted that it should be in a balanced way. So, or the communalism in its higher aspect that it indispensable to the formation of a harmonious whole in a country like India. The units of Indian society are now territorial as a European countries, and the principle of European democracy cannot be applied to India without recognizing the fact of communal groups. So the Muslim demand for the creation of a Muslim India within India is therefore perfectly justified. So here, just because all the units of Indian society is a part of the European countries here, so the principle of European democracy have applied in India without recognizing the fact of all the communal groups that are there. So Muslim का भी group था, so the demand was that कि इंडिया में ही उनका एक मुस्लिम इंडिया होना चाहिए, a small majority region उनको भी मिलना चाहिए, उनको भी वो recognition मिलना चाहिए. So their creation of Muslim India was quite justifiable. As we can talk about. So the Hindus think that separate electorate for the contrary to the spirit of true nationalism, because he understands the word nation to mean a kind of universal amalgamation in which no communal entity ought to retain its private individuality. Such a state of things, however, does not exist, and India is a land of racial and regional variety. Add to this the general economic inferiority of the Muslims, their enormous debt, especially in the Punjab, and their insufficient majorities in some of the provisions as at present constituted, and you will begin to see clearly the meaning of our anxiety to retain the separate electorates. That was a statement given by what the Hindu think about this particular separate electorates. So now the homework solution. So I have given you the question about what does Salt March become as effective tool of the resistance against all the colonialism, because Mahatma Gandhi found in Salt a powerful symbol that could unite the nation, because Gandhiji actually thought that salt is a very common thing that is used by the poor to the rich community. So that's what a thing that he thought that is a symbol that can unite the nation. And Gandhiji sent a letter to Viceroy Erwin stating about 11 demands of him, and the most striving of all was the demand to abolish the salt tax, and salt was an essential item of food and was consumed by rich to poor alike. So Erwin was unwillingly to negotiate. So Gandhiji started Salt March with 38 volunteers on 6 April, and he reached Dandi, violated the law and made salt there. This march developed the feeling of nationalism. People in different parts of the country broke the salt law and manufactured salt and demonstrated in front of government salt factories. So now the homework that I want to assign you here is you have to read the source D carefully, and you have to tell, do you agree with Iqbal's idea of communalism? Can you define communalism in a different way? So you have to take your definition of communalism in a different way, in your own way. You can define that. So this is your homework for this particular lecture. If you have queries, come on the doubt session and ask me whatever your doubts are. Till then, this is end of the lecture. We will be back on the next lecture. Just take care of yourself, and thank you so much.